Morning, Sena. How are you today?
I'm fine. I hope you are too.
I'm good by God's grace.
Well, your main focus when we had a discussion with you ahead of the MPP primaries was how well Mr. Kennedy Agyapong performed. You watch his performance. You're looking at the figures. You look at the figures yourself, I believe. Did he exceed your expectations?
No, I think the last time when we spoke, I indicated that I thought Kennedy would do well in this primaries, but the vice president, it appears, was going to win. I think that was the conclusion we left off the last time. And if you look at what has happened, I think Kennedy Agyapong did well. Of course, he didn't win. But if you look at what he has done, I am sure that, politics doesn't like the dull beat, but in the quiet of the vice president's camp, they will be shocked at the performance. This not to take anything away from the vice president that he has won, but he's going into this election limping because I think Kennedy has done well. Nobody should take that from him. The vice president has won all right. But if you look at the effort, I think it's a work of science. There's the science of the effort and weight. So that if there is something on a flat pedestal and you want to balance it to one side, there's the effort you put on that side and how much weight that effort is and how much balance you're able to tilt to the side of the effort. If you look at what has happened, considering the entire government machinery behind one candidate and the projections and the results, you will come to no conclusion that considering the singular effort of one candidate against almost the entire government machinery, Kennedy has done well. He's done remarkably well. Even more well is the fact that his victory is a lot more strategic. And I am sure if the vice president, after the jubilation, sits down and begins to go through region by region, constituency by constituency, he will now realize that Kennedy has really hurt him and that he needs him more than ever. Why do I say that? I hear the MP people say, "Oh, they won. He won more regions, and so how can anybody?" We're not running a federal election, okay? If that was the case, John Mahama would have won 2020. He won more regions than the sitting president, but the sitting president is president now. So that argument, I'm sure, is just for propaganda and for justification's sake. But I'll tell you something. In Ghana's elections, technically, there are about almost 4 regions in Ghana that tend to swing. Okay? One of the most notorious regions that is a swing region is Central Region. If you look at the performance of Kennedy in Central Region, is remarkable. And if you look at the candidate going into elections, not overwhelmingly winning, especially internally, not overwhelmingly winning the swing region, then you know you have a limping candidate. The second region, I think, is Greater Accra. That's another region that is also a swing in many times. So if you look at that region, Kennedy has performed very well. Of course, there is Brong Ahafo, and the other one is Westing. If you look at Kennedy's performance, and if you want to know how relevant it is, you don't look at the traditional places where MPP would have won anyway. you look at the problematic places that they have in national elections. That's really where a candidate's strength is measured. There are also swing constituencies, okay, and I'll take you through some of them. I think in Ghana, I think we have Ahafo, we have Ashanti. There are about two. Ahafo, there's zero actually. Ashanti region, there are two swing constituencies. In the Bono region, there's five. Out of the five, Kennedy has won one. In Bono East, in Central region, which is where I wanted to go to, there are about 9 swing constituencies in Central region. Out of that, Kennedy has won about 5. Okay, so you look at this, the regions. You look at the constituencies that makes the difference. Especially going to an election where the MPP lost almost 31 seats in 2020. You want to look at these swing regions, okay? And it looks to me that in almost all the swing constituencies where the MPP lost seats, Kennedy won there, and the vice president lost. And that should be a big worry to them. But for me, I knew that Kennedy was going to do well. I think he's done remarkably well, especially even the strategic constituencies that he won, from Greater Accra to Central Region. I think that makes the vice president really limp. And the number of regions he has won, we're not running a federal election in Ghana in 2024. We're going to run an election of 50% plus one. And so if that argument makes sense, John Mahama would have been president by now.
Okay.
So I see this, and I congratulate them, though, that they had an election that maybe was, for once, not violent. But you heard a story about the money and all of that. It's just who they are. Like Jerry Rawlings said, you can't beat these guys to the money thing. You focus on your values. That's really what I have to say.
Well, I spoke to the director of communications of the New Patriotic Party, Richard Ahiagba, who is of the opinion that what matters is the fact that Bawumia got over 61%. And that is good for a first-time flag-bearer aspirant like himself. And that whether or not Kennedy Ejipon pulled 39 or something does not matter, because at the end of the day, 61.43 is higher than someone who gets over 39%. That is not what is important.
Well, I mean, Kennedy, Sena, I think that the most important thing, I mean, like I'm saying, you can do all the propaganda you want, okay, about this, and it is their responsibility to spin this. But I think even the vice president himself and his people going to the election were looking towards over 70 to 75%. So if you look at where he is now, that is not a remarkably, of course, by virtue of math, simple math. You can say that, and I'm not talking complex math. I'm talking about by virtue of simple mathematics. You can say that he needed 50 plus 1 to win. Even if he had gotten 50 plus 1, this argument would have still been valid. He still managed, he won 50 plus 1 of the votes, and he's a duly elected candidate. So I think that's simple math. I'm sure that in math you also know that minus 1 plus 1 is 0. Okay? And that tends to be the complex mathematics. We're not dealing with the simple mathematics. We're dealing with the complex mathematics where a candidate is not showing strength in swing regions, okay, which he needs to win. A candidate is not showing strength at the internal level in swing constituencies that he needs to win. That is worrying if I were them. And I know in their quiet, they will worry about things like that. So, yes, he won, but his argument is simple math. The national election of 2024, will be dealing with complex math. if you are unable to, you're losing as many as almost 40% internally of your votes. Then they make this argument that, oh, this is the highest for a first timer. So against what are they measuring? Because I don't know which first timer won primaries. You can refresh my memory, but comparisons might be made with oranges and oranges. Was there a first timer who won, and what was the margin? For which reason they say this is the highest in history? I don't get it. I don't get all that math and all that argument. But at the end of the day, I think that Kennedy has gotten him limping, and the better he acknowledges that, because going against a candidate like John Mahama in 2024, at this time of the performance of their government, is not simple math. Okay, it's going to be complex math. So you're looking at a man who lost 2016 by over 1 million votes, and by 2020 he had closed the gap by 500,000 votes. Okay, so you look at all of that, and you look at the fact that this vice president is not winning at very strategic regions, or is not popular. You will still end up winning your traditional regions. Okay, that's why I'm saying this is going to 2024 is not your internal math. You will manage to win your traditional regions, but the competitive ones you lose, you're nothing. It does not make sense. You're going to be in a position. So I think they can make all that argument, but for the purposes of justification, you can make that argument that, oh, he won by 61% internally, for over almost 40%. Just 10 points short of losing, 10 percent points of losing in your own internal elections is not funny. Sena, is not funny.
Now, the president has already set the tone, saying that he will put everything, his energy, his time, into ensuring that Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia wins. I'm not sure if you listen to the president, but what do you make of that tone? Because we as Ghanaians are hoping that his energies, whatever is left of his energy, will be invested into trying to turn around our situation. But it seems more concentrated on getting Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia elected. What do you think about what the president chose to talk about?
On the lighter side, Sena, the energy the president had is really questionable. You saw him still sleeping at the event, the most important event where he was going to put all his energies to back a candidate. I think half of the things they said there he didn't hear until they woke him up to come and speak. He was still sleeping. How this man manages to sleep in the midst of all this noise and jubilation and all of that still amazes me. So I would say that idiomatically, or his energy level, his tank is low. I told you the last time we spoke that it looks to me that a lot of people have already checked out. They're looking for the next government. They checked out of this government because they realize that this is not something you can lean on. They're looking forward to the next government and see whether that will work out. You heard the president when he went to the party office to vote. They asked him a question about, do you think you've managed the economy well? He was upset. These are the guys who said there in all the conversations that they are the best managers of the economy. So I was wondering, rain or shine, when they ask you a question about the economy, you'd be excited to answer. The president was upset that they asked him whether he's managed the economy well. And he asked me, do you really want us to ask this question here? Where does the president want to answer the question about the economy? So those are the things. All his energy was put in 2020. He almost lost. He himself almost lost. So I think it is okay for them to come and spin and say they will do this. I think the president enjoy the fact that the NDC panicked when he said, we'll do everything at all costs. I'll put all my energy as president. Look, even with all his energy in 2020, he almost lost. Okay, so nobody should be afraid. Nobody should worry. The man has no energy left. He's sitting down every single minute. He's sleeping at public events. He has no energy left. I think if he had any energy at all, he would have made sure that this country is running. Now he's saying that he's going to make sure that this guy wins and that this guy is the best person to move the economy forward. And on the same platform, Sena, you heard the vice president said, for 7 years, I've been working with the president to make this government work. So I was like, which of the messages do I take if I'm a voter? Here you are, you have a candidate that they say he's the best person to solve the problems of this country, especially the economy. And we know that the economy is flat, it's collapsed. Okay? We're indebted to the level where we cannot pay. And not just that, we have borrowed this in 7 years, we have borrowed more than all the governments since 1957. Okay, in all their loans put together, this government has borrowed more than any of them. And yet, the economy is what it is. Then they come back and say that this guy, who has been part of this management, is the best person to manage the economy. Then he comes on stage and says, for 7 years, I've been working tirelessly with this president to make the country work. So which is which? Which one do you take? Do you take him as this new face that all of a sudden has woken up to the coffee and is ready to roll up his sleeves and work? Or the same guy that has worked tirelessly for this president to achieve his objectives, which has failed woefully in the past 7 years. So even on their own platforms, if you're a critical listener, you're getting this irony of messages or contradiction of messages up and down. So I see that they themselves are struggling. They're struggling how they will position this candidate. And it would have been a little easier if he was winning at the most strategic places, not the traditional MPP holes. If you're not winning in the swing regions and you're not popular in the swing regions and you're not popular in the swing constituencies, at a time when your party is going to an election where the parliament is tied, that must be a worry to any objective strategist. So for me, I think we have to wish them well. We have to congratulate them that they have gone through an important democratic process. It is up to them to spin as much as they want. But the reality is staring them in the face. They have a candidate who internally is 10 points to losing their own primaries. Okay? You have a candidate that has been part of a legacy of unbridled, uncontrolled borrowing and unimaginable resources thrust at them for 7 years, yet have a very bad statistics to look at. So you look at all of the combination of all of these, and you realize I told you that the NDC is better off with Bawumia as the candidate than anybody else, because now it's even worse. It's even worse that he's not popular in the most strategic places.
But there are those who have the opinion that for the National Democratic Congress, they are facing a candidate who have the full backing of incumbency. Let's say, for example, in 2008, you know the difficulties between even Nana Addo and, let's say, former President Kufuor. Former President Kufuor will go to a certain extent for Alan, but will not do same for Nana Akufo-Addo. In this case, you have Nana Akufo-Addo virtually, and with everything they have put at his disposal. MPs had to bow, ministers had to bow, chief executive, everybody had to take the knee for Dr. Bawumia and work for him. That you're facing the full force of incumbency when it comes to Dr. Bawumia, that's virtually much more difficult than having a Ken who perhaps will be running his own show.
Well, first, Sana, you also have to admit, on the flip side, is the fact that you cannot whip every voter. You cannot let them bend down on their knees to vote for you because you are incumbent and you're president. NDC has a lot of work to do. And I think they have to focus on doing that work and not be distracted by anything, any and everything. They've always been incumbency, but they've managed to win or they've managed to lose, whether they be incumbent or they be in a position. They've managed to win and they managed to lose. They have to focus on that. There's always justification for why certain things happen. Okay, which is you can always find it. You can always find a reason why you lost an election, whether your coalition was wrong or whether somebody hacked into the system. You can always find an excuse. The most important thing is for the NDC to go into this election very, very bold and proud that the people that said they were incompetent, Alas has a result, has a track record for which they can measure their strength. Okay? That, fortunately for them, it is not a new candidate. The same old candidate for over 16 years. Dr. Bawumia has been the face of the MPP's talking point for over 16 years. Like his candidate, he was given the chance to run, and he has a record to defend. Look, I know that incumbency advantage helps, okay? I know that things happen. But if you really study the architecture of our elections, it's not that easy to just steal elections. Unless your opponent is hopelessly hopeless or spectacularly incompetent. Because, listen, you have a representative at every polling point, okay? The only reason why a wrong vote will be tallied for you is if your agent colludes with your opponent. And if you, even in law, if your agent signs something on your behalf that he's not supposed to sign, you don't go back and blame your opponent because you are liable for the conduct of your agent, okay, the person you have appointed as your agent. And the logistics to steal 300,000, 1 million votes, unless you are not alert. I'm not saying it's not possible, but the logistics to do that is very, very difficult in this modern election. So let nobody make excuses at this point. The president, even in his personal incumbency, lost 500,000 votes from 2016. Okay? And so for me, I think the most important thing for the NDC, be vigilant, be hardworking, and I think just the fact that they are contesting against Bawumia, they should humiliate him enough because that's the guy that has always been poking fun and be talking so much. There's so much soundbite about this guy saying he can do almost everything. And when he got the chance, he realized that when you sit in a Land Cruiser, a brand new Land Cruiser, it's easy to say you're the best driver when you can put things on autopilot and just drive. But when you drive a Bedford in the village, those two cars are all cars, but they are different. So when you sit on the sidelines in a position and you talk, and you're given the mandate and you're unable to deliver, and now you blame COVID and you blame the Ukraine war. Listen, Sena, I was telling you the other day that for the first time in history, Ghana had trade a positive balance of trade with Russia. Okay, in 2022. So how does, unless we all do not understand simple economics, how does a positive balance of trade then becomes negative for you to say that it's because of that, because you registered a positive balance of trade with Russia for the first time since 1990? Your economy is bad. What kind of economics is this? So I see that this is going to be a very exciting election. Nobody should be afraid. People should go out there and do what they're supposed to do. If the NDC will do what they're supposed to do and not feel intimidated by anyone and not make excuses for why certain things are not done, look, there's no way anybody can, the president can talk, he's lame duck at this point. He handed over the baton to someone else. From now onwards, a lot of the attention goes to the vice president, okay, whom he has anointed, hopefully to take over from him. But the NDC has to do his work, not to be complicit, to make sure that they train their polling station agents. The situation where agents of your opponents are your agents should be a thing of the past. People should be properly vetted and appointed and selected to be representatives, to be their representative at the polling station. And there must be first and second line of monitoring of almost every polling station to be sure that whatever comes out is the actual verdict of the election. I think if all of these are done, there's no worry about incumbency or whatever. Listen, I have watched elections in this country for a while. Usually, the security forces themselves also know also understand the weather very, very well. Okay, they know if I go and be doing things completely out of the norm, and this guy wins, I'm going to be targeted and I'm going to be dealt with. So there's always, when you are in the latter part of your government, that you don't get false confidence that you can do anything, okay? Because people understand what time it is. If the NDC does its work, just as the MPP will do its work, there should be no reason why they should worry whether there's an incumbency or there's a different kind of incumbency. I think that's really more of what you were trying to say. That even though we have seen incumbency in the past, this is a very different incumbent and has a tendency to be heavy-handed in the affairs of things. But I'm saying, if this is such a bother to you as a political party, then don't contest. Okay? Go in there and do your best. Fight that you deserve a place at leadership of this country, and that you will also do. And the same thing, John Mahama should be able to say the same thing. I will do everything in my power to return the NDC back to power. And for that, for me, there's no reason to worry about what the opponents say. They are liberty to say anything they want. It is up to you to prepare enough and to be resolute in your quest that nothing is that you become unshakable.
Always a pleasure talking to you, and I hope that before the year ends, at least we'll have a session in studio. We will talk about perhaps access into a bit more detail the two candidates that will go into the elections. But thank you.
You know, I love talking to Gold, and I love talking to you. It will be a pleasure to do that.
Great. I wish you the best of the day.
You too.
Mr. Raymond is an international risk analyst, a journalist by training. First of all, this is Hardy in Pig Farm. We'll go and speak to Phyllis Kwachiofosu, who is one of the spokespersons